Imagine handing a complete stranger on the street a perfectly mapped blueprint of your home,
Oh, yeah.
like along with the keys, just because they asked nicely.
Right. You would absolutely never do it.
No, of course not. I mean, it goes against every basic survival instinct we have. But the thing is, every single time you upload a standard, professional headshot to LinkedIn or some company directory, you might actually be handing over a biometric blueprint.
A blueprint that malicious AI can basically use to hijack your entire identity.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are incredibly glad you're here with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
So today our mission is to explore the bleeding edge of artificial intelligence, but we're actively stepping away from those celebratory, productivity-boosting narratives we always hear.
Right, no utopian tech talk today.
No, definitely not. Instead, we are looking directly at the deeply unsettling collision of advanced facial recognition, personal privacy, and deepfake technology.
Which is such a critical shift because for anyone tracking AI, the conversation usually hovers around like workflow efficiency or copyright issue.
Yeah, sure, always the copyright lawsuits.
Yeah, but the sources we are unpacking today, they highlight an immediate visceral threat. It forces a complete recalibration of how we think about our digital footprint.
It really does.
Because we are so accustomed to viewing a photograph as just a static memory, right? Or like a professional placeholder. We aren't trained at all to see it as highly sensitive, weaponizable data. The barrier between our physical reality and our digital autonomy is just collapsing.
And the fallout is intensely personal.
Um,
So our roadmap for this deep dive is a curated AI news digest from May 2026.
Which is packed with information.
It is, and it anchors its analysis on this deeply disturbing feature from MIT Technology Review. The piece is titled, "The Shock of Seeing Your Body Used in Deepfake Porn."
Yeah.
And look, right out of the gate, we want to be very clear with you about the tone today. We are dealing with severe privacy invasion here.
Very severe.
Yeah, and the creation of non-consensual explicit content. It is heavy. But understanding the mechanics of how this happens, well, it's the only way to really grasp the reality of the digital ecosystem we are all currently living in.
It is a necessary reality check, honestly. I mean, this
Mhm.
is no longer some fringe issue affecting just a handful of highly visible public figures or celebrities.
Right.
The architecture of the internet has fundamentally shifted,
Yeah.
and it's making ordinary individuals entirely vulnerable.
So to ground how this shift actually plays out in the real world, the source material focuses on a woman named Jennifer.
Yeah, Jennifer's story is just wild.
It is. So back in 2023, she's working for a nonprofit. She's just a regular professional, not a public figure, not some big influencer.
Just an everyday person.
Exactly. And one day, she decides to run a little innocent experiment. She takes a standard, high-quality, professional headshot. The exact kind of photo you probably have sitting on your own hard drive right now.
Oh, absolutely. Flat lighting, forced smile, directly facing the camera. It's the visual standard for modern professionalism. Practically ubiquitous.
Right. So she takes that photo and she runs it through some commercially available facial recognition software just to see what pops up.
Which, makes sense.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because treating this like a vanity search is something we can all relate to, right?
Oh, totally.
It's like Googling your own name on a lazy Sunday afternoon. You're expecting to maybe find an old high school track and field record or, I don't know, a mention in a local community newsletter.
You're expecting a harmless echo of your public life.
Exactly. But instead, she hits search, and the software completely bypasses her LinkedIn. It bypasses her nonprofit's website.
Wow.
And it finds a digital clone of her likeness in adult videos dating back over 10 years.
It's just staggering. The psychological whiplash of that exact moment. I mean, I can't even imagine.
It's a nightmare.
But if we look under the hood of how that search actually functioned, it exposes something profoundly chilling about the raw underlying power of modern facial recognition.
Oh, definitely.
It completely shatters our outdated assumptions about how anonymity actually works on the internet today.
Okay, so if I'm understanding the timeline here, she is uploading a clean, high-resolution photo from 2023.
Correct.
And the software is somehow matching it to heavily manipulated, explicit video content from 2013.
Yeah, a full decade earlier.
I have to admit some confusion here. Like, how does a flat 2D image match a moving, low-resolution 10-year-old video?
It's a great question.
Wouldn't the algorithm be thrown off by the age difference? Or the terrible lighting? Or just the fact that the video itself is a digitally altered deepfake?
You would think so, right?
Hmm.
But that assumes the algorithm is looking at a picture the way a human eye does.
Oh, I see.
And it isn't. It strips away the context completely. Modern facial recognition, it doesn't care about lighting, it doesn't care about hairstyles, and it certainly doesn't care about the artistic quality of some old deepfake. When Jennifer uploaded that headshot, the software immediately converted her face into a mathematical formula.
So it turns her into a geometric equation.
Exactly. It maps the precise distance between the pupils. It measures the exact angle of the jawline, the depth of the eye sockets, the contour of the cheekbones.
Wow.
Yeah, it extracts all these biometric markers and creates a unique, multi-dimensional vector. And once it had that mathematical skeleton, it aggressively scours the internet looking for that exact same geometric equation.
So the algorithm isn't confused by the fakeness of the 2013 video because it's essentially looking right through the digital manipulation.
Right, it ignores all the noise.
It's just hunting for the underlying skeletal math.
That is the core mechanism, yeah. The software identified the biometric markers of her face, successfully mapped onto someone else's body in that old footage.
That is terrifying.
It bridged a decade of time, terrible video compression, and heavy digital alteration seamlessly.
Just seamlessly.
And that specific capability, that highlights an unprecedented loss of personal control.
How so?
Well, historically, if someone maliciously manipulated a photo of you, it kind of just existed in a vacuum. Unless someone you personally knew stumbled across it in some dark corner of the web, it was effectively lost in the noise.
Right. You had the protection of obscurity.
Exactly.
The internet was just too vast for anyone to connect the dots between your real professional life and some isolated malicious file floating around on a shady forum.
Well, obscurity is officially dead.
Wow.
Facial recognition now acts as an inescapable, permanent tether. It takes your present professional identity and hardwires it to any malicious content created with your likeness.
Yeah.
Anywhere on the open web. There are basically no more dark corners.
Which brings us to the engine of the abuse itself, because Jennifer's story isn't just an isolated nightmare.
Unfortunately, no.
It exposes the terrifying acceleration of deepfake technology. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
We constantly hear that the barrier to entry has collapsed with AI. But doesn't mapping a human face seamlessly onto a moving video still take a massive amount of technical skill?
It's a fair point to raise.
Like, are everyday internet trolls actually pulling this off? Or is this still mostly isolated to sophisticated tech hubs and dark web networks?
That skepticism is totally valid because, 5 years ago, you would have been completely right.
Really? 5 years ago, it was that hard?
Oh, absolutely. Training a generative adversarial network, a GAN, to create a convincing deepfake used to require massive data sets.
Right.
You needed thousands of images of the target person from every conceivable angle, plus thousands of hours of high-end GPU compute time. It was basically a Hollywood-level visual effects task.
Right, which is why the assumption was always that this was exclusively a problem for massive celebrities or politicians.
Exactly.
People whose faces were already photographed from 1,000 different angles anyway.
But the architecture of AI development has fundamentally mutated. We are no longer talking about training a model from scratch.
Okay, so what are we talking about now?
We are now in the era of pre-trained open-source foundation models and what we call one-shot or few-shot learning. Malicious actors, they don't need a supercomputer or a massive data set anymore.
Because the AI is already smart.
Basically, yeah. The AI has already been trained on billions of faces to understand how a human head moves in three-dimensional space.
So they just feed it a single reference point.
They feed it one clean, professional headshot.
Just one.
Just one. The software uses that single image to texture the pre-existing 3D understanding of a head. I mean, there are open-source one-click tools available right now where you just drop a target photo into one folder or a source video into another and you press enter.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, it's that simple. The algorithm handles the lighting, the blending, and the motion tracking automatically. The technical barrier hasn't just collapsed, it has practically evaporated.
Man, here is where the tension gets incredibly thick. Because we are relentlessly sold AI as this ultimate tool for human progress.
Oh, all the time.
It's going to optimize our supply chains, it's going to write our code, it's going to cure diseases.
Right.
But this specific application proves that the democratization of artificial intelligence also inherently guarantees the democratization of digital abuse.
It is the ultimate double-edged sword. Lowering the barrier to entry means a broke, independent filmmaker can create stunning visual effects on a cheap laptop.
Which is amazing.
It is. But it simultaneously means that anyone with an internet connection and a grudge can weaponize your identity in a single afternoon.
Yeah.
And the harm we are discussing here goes so much deeper than standard cybercrime.
It really is a totally different category of violation. I mean, if someone steals your credit card number, it's a massive headache, absolutely.
For sure.
But you call the bank, you cancel the card, you dispute the charges, and you move on. The system has a reset button.
But you cannot cancel your face.
Right.
When someone steals your biometric signature, the very thing that represents your physical existence in the real world, and forcefully inserts it into non-consensual, highly explicit scenarios, they are stripping away your bodily autonomy in the digital realm.
It's awful.
It is a profound violation of human dignity. It literally turns your own identity into a hostage.
So if the threat is this severe, and the barrier to entry is effectively zero, and the psychological damage is permanent, we have to ask the obvious question.
Who is playing defense?
Exactly. Who is standing between our innocent professional headshots and the worst corners of the internet?
Well, based on the MIT piece and the broader tech digest we're looking at, the deeply uncomfortable answer is that we are currently operating in a massive regulatory vacuum.
A vacuum?
Yeah. Both the tech giants developing these open source models and the government agencies supposed to oversee them are structurally failing to protect individuals.
It feels like trying to draft speed limits for teleportation when the government is still studying the combustion engine.
That is such a good way to put it.
Like, the speed of innovation is entirely breaking the physical limits of our legislative system.
That analogy perfectly captures the systemic friction here. AI development operates on an exponential curve. Machine learning models get faster, cheaper, and exponentially more capable every few months.
Right.
Meanwhile, our legal and legislative frameworks are designed to be deliberate, cautious, and incredibly slow. They rely heavily on precedent. But there is no legal precedent for open-source synthetic media generation at a global scale.
Sure, but wait. Surely there are technical solutions being debated, right? Like, the digest mentions things like digital watermarking and strict liability laws.
Yeah, it does.
Let's dig into those, because on the surface, digital watermarking sounds like a pretty solid fix. Just tag the AI-generated content at the code level so a platform can automatically detect it and take it down, right?
In theory, digital watermarking is a great idea. Baking an invisible cryptographic signature into the metadata or the pixel patterns of synthetic media.
Sounds foolproof.
It allows platforms to immediately flag something as AI-generated, but there is a massive, glaring loophole when it comes to non-consensual deepfakes.
Which is the open source community, I'm guessing. Like, if a bad actor doesn't want a watermark, they just won't use a commercial platform that enforces them.
Exactly. Commercial models like OpenAI or Midjourney might enforce strict watermarking and block explicit prompts. They have safety teams.
Right.
But once a powerful open source model is released into the wild, it can be downloaded, modified, and run locally on a private server.
Oh, so they just bypass the rules entirely.
Yeah. Malicious developers simply strip the watermarking protocols out of the code. They remove the safety guardrails entirely. A watermark only works if the person generating the image agrees to include it.
So a technical patch isn't enough. Which brings us to the legal side of things. Strict liability. Holding the platforms accountable.
Right.
If a website knowingly hosts a non-consensual deepfake of Jennifer, shouldn't they be sued into oblivion?
They absolutely should, and the digest highlights this as a critical path forward. But implementing strict liability triggers a massive, complex legal war over user-generated content.
Because of the hosting laws.
Exactly. You are suddenly colliding with foundational internet laws like Section 230 in the United States, which traditionally protect platforms from being held legally responsible for what their users post.
Right, so the platforms argue they are just the highway, not the driver of the car.
They argue they are a completely neutral conduit. If regulators attempt to aggressively pierce that protection, platforms claim it will destroy the entire architecture of the modern internet.
How so?
Well, they argue it would require impossible levels of pre-screening for every single video, image, and text uploaded globally.
Wow, and while the lobbyists debate the architecture of the internet, people like Jennifer are just left completely exposed.
The human cost absolutely gets buried in the legislative debate. The sobering reality is that drafting new, nuanced legislation, debating it in committees, passing it into law, and somehow figuring out how to enforce it across international borders, that takes years.
And technology moves in weeks.
Exactly. Until those robust protective measures are actually functioning, the burden of protection falls entirely and quite unfairly on the individual.
Well, let's synthesize what we've unpacked today because we've moved from a single everyday photograph into the mechanics of a massive systemic privacy failure.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. The core takeaways from these sources are stark. Artificial intelligence is an astonishingly powerful dual-use technology. Deepfakes have completely bypassed the realm of celebrities and now pose a staggering, immediate threat to the privacy and dignity of everyday citizens.
And critically, because the technical barrier to creating this synthetic media has collapsed so rapidly, our current tech oversight frameworks and regulatory systems are utterly failing to keep pace.
The guardrails simply do not exist yet.
No, they don't.
We want to connect this directly back to you, the listener, because, why does understanding the mechanics of a 2023 case study matter to your life right now?
It matters a lot.
Yeah, because in an increasingly interconnected world, your face is your passport, it's your login credential, and it's your public identity.
Yep.
That professional headshot sitting innocently on your company website or your university alumni page isn't just a photo anymore. It is a highly vulnerable biometric data set. The illusion of distance has been entirely shattered.
You don't have to be famous to be targeted anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to be visible.
You do. But before we wrap up today, there's one final, deeply provocative thought we want to leave you to mull over. A concept that builds directly on the technical realities we've explored from the source material.
Right. Consider the deeply ironic nature of Jennifer's discovery.
Mm.
The only way she found out she was a victim of a deepfake in the first place was by deploying advanced facial recognition software on herself.
Right.
She had to utilize an incredibly powerful AI tool to uncover the abuse generated by another AI tool.
If she hadn't run that random, innocent experiment, those mathematical vectors would still be out there mapping her face to that dark content, and she would have lived her life completely oblivious to it.
Which forces a very uncomfortable question about our immediate future. Are we entering a digital ecosystem where the only way to protect ourselves from malicious AI is to constantly surveil ourselves with even more AI?
That is a dark thought.
I mean, will we have to engage in a personal, perpetual digital arms race, like running automated daily facial recognition scans of the entire dark web just to maintain ownership of our own identity?
It fundamentally flips the concept of privacy on its head. I mean, to protect your privacy, you might have to submit to constant self-inflicted surveillance.
You have to prove that the digital ghost wandering the internet isn't actually you.
It is a daunting prospect,
Yeah.
but acknowledging the reality of how these algorithms function is the necessary first step in demanding better protections. Stay curious, stay informed, and let's continue to navigate the complex reality of this technology together. Until next time.